Hey guys, Scott and Nate from Play Your Court. Today you guys are in for a treat. We're going to be interviewing Emma on her new book, What Makes a Great Coach.
So for you guys that aren't familiar with Emma Doyle, I've had the pleasure of watching her present multiple times through Mid-Atlantic conferences, world conferences, and now you have a book. Pleasure having you here, Emma.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat about coaching with you.
Yeah,
likewise.
For sure.
We were going to ask you to grow a beard for this interview, but I figured that would be inappropriate. It's just fit in on this channel, typically a beard.
Emma's first question to us was, do you have to have a beard, which is par for the course with all.
Oh, Colorado girl. So every second gentleman here has beards. So
flannels and beanies and drink wonderful craft beers.
That's right. We would fit right. Maybe we need to move to Colorado.
All right, so let's get into this book. So Emma, you've been coaching for a long time. What prompted you to write? This is your first book, right? Your very first book?
Correct.
So what got you into writing?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a writer at all. Let's just put that out there. I know.
Disagree.
Yeah.
Disagree. Very clearly a book out.
You had a co-author
yes, I appreciate it. But what prompted it was the moment that, when you have 30 seconds with Roger Federer, when he's walking from a Pro-Am event in New York back to his helicopter, and he accidentally turned around and put his arm around me, because I happened to be at the right place at the right time. I have a great photo of it. Maybe we could put it in the clip. But I essentially thought, well, what am I going to ask him? And I quickly got out two questions. And the second question was, hey, Rog, as we shorten everything down under, in 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what makes a great coach? Because I knew I didn't have a lot of time. And when he said someone who listens, I was like, oh, that's actually not what I was expecting. It was a little profound. And then I just started asking more people. And then I was like, I think I should start a podcast, the coaching podcast, and ask my guests this question. And then I started to get really awesome data. And then I became a little obsessed where I was just asking everybody in 1 to a maximum of 3 words, which that I'm going to flip that back at both of you right now, don't you? You know that. I can see your brain.
So Emma asked this before we got on. She was like, think about what you would say. And I was going to say listening. Roger completely stole my thunder.
You and Roger are just basically the same person,
I can elaborate on it a little bit more, but yeah, Roger totally stole my thunder.
Yeah.
I'll give you my one word. My one word is communication, because I feel like a lot of the coaching we do actually surrounds around this thesis. Is a lot of coaches want you to hit the ball the way they hit the ball, or to envision the game the way you envision the game. They don't let you make it your own. They're trying to make you wear that jacket right off the rack, and sometimes it just doesn't fit quite right. So for me, it's all about communication and really understanding your player, because you're having that communication and being able to prescribe what's appropriate for what they got going on.
Yeah.
Well, basically in the book, we call them practices, not chapters, right? And so thank you, because practice 7 is listening and practice 9 in the book is communication.
Look at that.
So you've just hit on 2 of the top 10 practices of the research of over 520 humans. So thank you for that, gentlemen. Great work.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. How long did it take Roger to answer with listening, being a good listener? Was there a pause, or was it just boom, he knew?
No, he paused. And, you could see him sort of searching, and also the helicopters there and the noise. And then I was like, did I hear right? Is that what he actually said? But yeah, he definitely paused, which is a huge, there's also a line in the book. It's called The Power of the Pause, which taps beautifully into communication, because I know that as a young coach, I definitely had verbal diarrhea, no doubt about it. So being able to pause, know when to pause, Scott, you just touched on it a minute ago, knowing when to ask what question is a huge part of the ethos of the book, because it wasn't until I got out of tennis that I think I became a better coach. When I understood business coaching and I understood, what do you mean? I have to run a whole session and I'm not allowed to give one piece of advice. I'm a technical junkie. I love to talk about angles of separation and things like that. And when I had to, every time I went to say something, I had to flip it into a question, was, I think, when I really understood the power of unlocking the potential within the person, which is a huge part of the book that I'm really proud of, actually. So
I love that, as far as that chapter, or that one of the practices, as far as the pause, because I think in what we do for work with all coaches, we want to supply so much information. And we all know we've been next to coaches that are, watch the ball, get your follow through up, move your feet. And it's like, it's just the student we're good at listening to one thing. And is what you're saying valuable, or is it a distraction? So elaborating or mine was kind of the mantra that, working with students, we want to listen, mentor, and motivate. And that's kind of the way that I've always looked at coaching, is ultimately like, what is it that the student is saying? Does it line up with my vision? And is my vision correct or incorrect, or do we need to meet halfway? And then mentor. What do I know? What is my expertise that I can do to help this student? And then motivate. Can we continue to have the student fall in love with the game and keep wanting to learn day in and day out? So that was my elaboration on Roger's.
I was going to say that was his 1 to 3 word answer.
Yeah. It's 3 words. It's 3 words.
It was 3 words.
So,
Yep.
Emma, I got to ask, I learned you started coaching at age 14 years old. Is that true? Talk
That's
to us
true
a little
story.
bit about that, because I could barely walk at 14 years old.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
a baby giraffe.
It was 2-part. I was doing a paper round, delivering newspapers, and basically that took me about 3 days a week, and I was getting $7 a week. And then all of a sudden, my tennis coach, he said that like the kick serve had just come out, like it was just like this fancy new serve, and I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind learning that, but really my parents couldn't afford that private one-on-one tuition. So he said, well, why don't you jump on court and with the junior players, and if you coach one night a week, I'll give you a private lesson on this kick serve. And I was like, oh, I'm in. I had no idea what I was doing. Of course, I just looked at the court next to me and copied what they were doing. But it was a profound experience. And I know not everybody has this, but I was like, oh, what, you get to wear a trackie to work, you get to wear your runners. And all my friends were starting to get part-time jobs in hospitality. And even then, once I started coaching a second day a week, I was like, oh, my return on investment I was entrepreneurial even at that young age. I was like, this is a much smarter way for me to coach one night a week and then, get this private lesson, and then coach another night of the week and make more money than what my friends made all weekend working at McDonald's. So it was a bit twofold, but I did have that moment where I was like, God, I want to be a coach really early on. And that's probably also because my playing ability was, I knew I wasn't going to be number one in the world. So let's be honest. So
talk to us about that too. I mean, playing coaching background, for those watching that aren't familiar with sort of your story. I mean, started coaching at 14. Walk us through just sort of playing coaching background, just sort of the high level. You don't have to go into intricate detail, but I think just to give us some perspective on where you've been as a coach and as a player.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that happened to me, I was a late developer, but played multiple sports. So I'm much better at AFL Australian, kicking the footy, and playing cricket, backyard cricket. And so all these sports that girls weren't allowed to play, we had to play netball growing up. So basically I had more of a multi-sport upbringing. And then as all the girls that used to smash me in the under 12s, when I was 16 and getting stronger and fitter, they were sort of dropping out. So I was continuing to coach more, and I got into the course of my dreams. I talk about this in the book, Sports Coaching and Administration, and a famous AFL footballer was the course coordinator of my team since I was 5, Carlton Football Club. I was like, I am exactly where I'm meant to be. So I get pulled into his office, and Paco's got the vein popping out of his neck, and he's like, he's like, basically, do you want to be the best coach you could be? I was like, yes. Like, what have I got to do? And he's like, well, have you maximized your playing potential? And I was like, absolutely not. I was feeling amazing, and I was a boxing instructor, boxercise and things like this. And so I said, look, there's this thing called college tennis. I don't know if I'm good enough, but I know a lot of people that I, grew up with, they're playing or whatever it might be. And so I wrote away put my VHS video in the mail, and I said, whichever college writes back to me first, that's where I'm going to go. And all of a sudden, Dale Short from Middle Tennessee State University calls me up and says, we have a low crime rate here in Murfreesboro. And I was like, I said to Mum, I was like, Mum, what's a crime rate? I didn't even know what he was talking about. And I said, I don't care. you know, and within 4 weeks, I was on a plane from, you know, Melbourne to Murfreesboro, and it took me 56 hours. I got snowed in Chicago. Oh, sorry, you didn't want the intricate details. Sorry, Scott.
No,
So,
this is exciting. This is cool.
Yeah, but basically, I'm at college tennis. I was made for like college tennis. That team, playing for someone more than myself, being surrounded by other, you know, just teammates. That it was like I'd be warming up and I was like, this girl is just as good as me. I was like, how, you know, who's going to win this match? We're like, whoever's prepared to stay out on that court for one more ball. And so I'm really glad, because then my journey really moved into more coaching at the highest level. I represented Australia 20 times as a junior coach. So I'm taking groups of teenage girls overseas for 6 weeks at a time and representing our country. And there were those moments where I was like, yeah, even though I wasn't, you know, I didn't play on the tour, I had experienced what it was like to put myself under pressure as a player and a performer. And I think that to me is a really, really key moment when you're maximizing your coaching potential, that you also push yourself in whatever discipline it is for you, but you understand pressure and you feel it and you live it and you breathe it. And I'm really grateful for that college tennis experience to be able to maximize. I think it really helped me as a young coach in my 20s.
Having seen you present and the energy that you bring, I can only imagine you were the best teammate ever in collegiate tennis. You had to be the ultimate teammate.
I appreciate that. It's definitely what a lot of my mates would say. And I just, a month ago, spent the weekend with my former roommate. You know, she's got 6 kids now. And, you know, up in Canada there. And, yeah, I know. She was
6 starting spots.
6 kids. Yeah, you got
yeah. So I was playing that energy role. She's like, "Can you come back like every weekend and just play with my kids?"
That's right.
But no, I'm an auntie, and I've got 7 wonderful nieces and nephews, and it's a joy to be able to come in, be the energizer, and then just walk away.
Yeah, it's a me time. So
right.
going back real quick to Parco, I thought that was such an interesting moment in the book, and what a powerful question. Have you gone as far as you can go in tennis? Amazing, right? So you referred to this as unlocking the learning that lies within. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that was a really important.
It's a powerful piece of the book for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, it's a really powerful question. And I think as coaches, this is what the book is all about. It's if you have a thought in your head that you need to tell this player because your map of the world is what you think is best for that student in that moment, can you set up a learning environment that unlocks allows them to problem solve? Can you ask a great question instead of just tell, which I think is in tennis coaching, in sports coaching, I still see too much of that. And I still see, therefore, under pressure, people breaking down, and not just at the highest level. I'm talking about a 3.0, finals match, and somebody's really breaks down because they've just been told what to do the whole time. And so what happened for me in that moment too is the question around unlocking the potential that lives within the player relates to, and I think this might be really interesting for your audience, but it actually relates to the inner game of tennis. We all know the book, which talks about 2 main concepts: that the opponent within one's head is more formidable than the one down the other end of the court. And then the second concept is, if a coach can help to remove or reduce those internal obstacles, then a natural ability will flow forth without much technical input from the coach. Now, Sir John Whitmore, when I got out of tennis altogether, Sir John Whitmore is one of the godfathers of business coaching. And he actually worked with Timothy Galway from the Inner Game of Tennis to be able to define this new way of coaching, which was pretty foreign to me, I must admit. I was like, what? What do you mean ask a question? Or what do you mean set up a great learning environment? What are you talking about? So I love that my journey sort of come full fold. And I love that tennis has impacted business coaching to help redefine what it really means, because that's what it really means to me. And I think that's the other reason why I wanted to write the book. I thought more coaches need to understand these principles and these concepts. So, and that Parco question was the catalyst. It was the catalyst to saying, are you maximizing your potential? If not, what are you going to do about it? And in the book, one of my favorite questions is, who do you need to become to get to where you want to go? And I think there's always, if we constantly work on bridging that gap, and then when you get there, as Judy Murray always says, okay, what's next? What's next? So, so I love that that's come full circle, tennis being the vehicle for impacting business coaching. How cool is that?
It's, yeah, very cool. You actually mentioned, you said this is not a tennis coaching book, right? So
Not tennis specific. Certainly tennis
Correct.
coaches should read it,
Yeah.
but not
it's
a
not
tennis
only
coaching
for
right.
tennis coaches that
Right.
you said, if you're in business or anything else, this is a great book for them as well.
Yeah, look, it's tennis heavy. So if you love tennis,
Yeah.
the stories are tennis heavy. But I wanted people to understand that even though I'm telling a story about someone I've coached who's, say, a young child, what are the benefits for a business coach? How can a business coach take the practice on empathy and being able to understand this story that I'm telling about this little girl who wants to learn the backhand, thinking that she's never going to be able to do it in the workplace? That's how people feel. People sometimes feel like, I'm never going to be able to do this, or whatever it might be. So I want people to understand that the book is for business coaches, sports coaches, and in terms of the research, so there was 520 humans altogether, 51% women and 49% men. Sorry, guys, but I had to throw that in there because, the tennis industry is so high on male coaches. So I wanted, that was important to have equal gender, just about. And of the 520, there were 328 tennis coaches. So make no mistake about it, there are the people that I drew my data from, a huge percentage were from tennis. Then we had 71 sports coaches, and we had 105 business coaches, and we had 17 tennis players.
I think that's important for our audience to realize, though, even if you want to be a better leader in your role at work, this book is for you, right? It's not just
Correct.
if you're a sports coach, or even more specifically a tennis coach, maybe a tennis hue on some of the storytelling in the book, but this is really for anybody that strives to coach successfully, lead successfully. Is that accurate?
That is 100% accurate, because and the reason, again, that they're called practices, it's not even best practice, it's next practice. How do we continually evolve? You can't just go, oh yeah, communication, oh, I do that, like tick.
Right.
Oh, listening, I got that, no worries, mate, tick. It's not that at all. Every day is an opportunity to listen. And there is a matching toolkit for anyone that buys 10 copies or more. And with the toolkit's an online course that relates to every one of the practices. So for example, under communication, instead of asking a what question, we start with, tell me about your recent match. Tell me. So just a little subtle distinction there in communication, in language that's practical, relatable, but it's the difference. Even if your child comes home from school and you say, how was your day? Good, right? A much better question is, hey, tell me about some of the great things that happened today. Boom, they're off and running. So just the subtleties in language, I'm super passionate about ever since when I got off the court in the mid 2000s. And so it catapulted me back into, now I help corporate people, and I still work in tennis as well, because it's my love, my passion.
Very, very cool.
For our tennis audience too, I think it's important with understanding, a tennis coach and how possibly they could relate to, business or whatever else it might be. My background, I'm a double major in psychology and sociology while I was at JMU, and being in working for a club and running different academies for tennis, I've always said to coaches around me, I was like, you'd be the best psychologist. You do all of this so well. You're problem solving every day. You're treating
a lot of therapy sessions take place at tennis clubs.
And it's not a one size fits all. It's all, every person is different, and you have to learn to communicate and get the best out of each person and keep them happy, all the way from, beginners to, academy high level collegiate players to, the man or woman that's the individual that has taken a lesson at 6 a.m. before they go to work because they want to blow off steam. All very, very different.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to. So your book speaks to a lot of that.
You got to wear a different hat to coach the different types of scenarios you enter, even as just a tennis coach. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing our audience's feedback once they read this book. So I think it's not just for tennis players. Like you said, I think this really just helps you become a better leader, I think, in general. But we've got to end this with some fun questions, right? Talk to us about your favorite, and I don't know if I want to call it least favorite, maybe your favorite coaching moment and then your worst coaching moment. And you can do it quickly. Or you can do it elaborately
No,
if it's interesting. Yeah, you don't have to do it quickly.
dwell
Let's
on the
dive
worst
in.
coaching moment. If we could really dig into that pain and twist it a little
with
bit.
names, ideally.
My favorite coaching moment is when I get to attend a 21st birthday or give a speech at somebody's wedding, or when I see them grow into people. So they're my best coaching moments. People that I've worked with that then I just see them step into their adulthood over the years. I keep in contact, attend their wedding or whatever it might be. So I can't, there's not one specific moment that comes to mind when it relates to my best moment. When comes to my worst moment, I talk about it in the book, which is when I have to listen. I had to do a university assignment, and I had to listen to myself at coach, and I had to get mentorship around that. And I can't believe, within 45 minutes, I think I spoke for 43 of the 45 minutes. Like I just was like I mentioned earlier, that verbal diarrhea. And it was my mentor, Damien, who was he's a wonderful coach, Japanese sword fighting, the kendo. So taking that martial arts philosophy, and he just said, Emma, pause, the power of the pause. Even after you ask a question, be comfortable in silence. And you can learn so much in silence. You actually can listen by watching body language. And I think that when he said that to me, I was like, okay. And then when I understood the tools, like I mentioned, when I got off the court, that's how I understood how to really transform myself. And my biggest aha moment was when I realized that I had to change who I was to bring out the best in the other person. So yes, I have high energy. I'm like, yes, if you're extrovert, you're kinesthetic learner, let's go. I'm going to be the coach for you. But it was like, oh, how come I'm only bringing out the best in half of my players? Right. Oh, you idiot, because you have to change who you are. Sometimes you have to soften your tone. Sometimes you have to whisper. Sometimes you've got to change your questioning skills and ask more thinking questions rather than I'm a big feel person. How'd that feel? Give me a key word. This person's like, I don't feel anything. What are you talking about, Willis?
different strokes for different folks, right? We all learn differently. We all are going to receive different types of coaching, better or worse.
So to toot your horn for just a minute, I don't know if you remember this, Emma, at the Mid-Atlantic Conference a while back, your presentation was so good. The director of the club that I was working on at the time, John Frazier, came up to Emma and was like, I want you to come down and work with my team. I want you to, what you just did up there, we can be better. I want you to come down and share your secrets. So that was a very cool moment. And John, we're still close with, is very well respected, blown away. I don't know that it ever happened, but maybe we'll get you down here and work with us. We could polish up a little bit.
For sure, we could.
So I thought about this, Emma, and this is how impactful that question was that Parco had for you. And so as I was writing this down, I was like, all right, so if we ask Emma what her worst and best coaching moments were, I was like, I have to internalize that and think about for mine. And mine's has always been in the forefront of my mind. I worked with a brother and sister. And the brother, RC, who's been in some of our videos, this kid was in 8th grade and played basketball. And by into 9th grade, he was like, I want to play collegiate tennis. And I was like, we are way behind the curve. But if you do this, 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 and this, and this, ends up getting a scholarship playing at George Mason. Wonderful, wonderful story. His sister, who I also worked with, super fun kid, always had a blast. My mistake is I treated her just like I treated Ryan, someone that was hyper motivated, hung on every word of coaching. Her poor Caroline, she wins her first tournament at the club, moonballing. And I was like, hey, way to go, kiddo. What awesome, well playing. But and immediately I get critical because that's what her brother responded to. Not necessarily critical, but like, this is what we're going to start working on. And immediately I'm like, hey, you know how we were working on driving the ball? There was a lot of falling back and shaping. We got to get to work on that. I'm not kidding. Emma, 2 weeks later, never played tennis again. And it was,
No.
but it's like that learning. It was, year 2 into like my full-time stint coaching. I was like, man, I really have to really look at people, to your point, look at people differently and think about how they're motivated. What is it they want? So I think that's a really good point that you made.
Yeah, which really taps into 2 of the practices. Practice 1 is decision making, and practice 3 is purpose. So being able to tap into understanding people and embedding decision making. If there's one thing that people remember, even from this interview, it's, are they encouraging and helping people make decisions, whether it be, am I going to hit forehand or backhand? Am I going to hit heavy or am I going to hit slice? Just rather than just always telling people, hey, this is what you should do in this moment. That word should. Hey, I'm a Catholicism upbringing. So the word should, let's just eradicate that word.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very passionate about that. And I have a whole philosophy around that throughout the Rogi pathway. To me, even a 5-year-old could be making a decision. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting point for sure.
Very,
Speaking
very
of
cool.
5-year-olds,
Yeah, talk to us
have
about
to tell us about this coloring book.
Well, why
launch? See what you did there? That was amazing.
You didn't see that one coming, did you?
No, I didn't. But why launch one book when you can launch 2? And please note that I will probably never write a third. I'm saying that right here, right now. Who knows? But it's a sort of a fun little Dr. Seuss inspired, fast-paced story for 2 to 5-year-olds. And it's the little character tries on a cone for a shoe, a net for a shoe, and what do I wear on my feet to play tennis? And of course, we all know the best thing to wear on my foot is a, Scott?
Tennis shoe.
I love that he said tennis shoe. That's very cute.
I just want to make sure I got it right. I wanted to be really specific.
So, and then the coloring section at the back. But the cool thing about it too is if you scan the QR code on the back, you'll see myself and a little 4-year-old on court playing out the story and helping parents practice their coordination skills. And if you scan the other one, there's a male coach that I work with, working with with a little boy. Not that it matters, but the point being is that we play out the story on the court, where we're literally doing all little coordination activities, which I think I'm a big fan of parents helping build early coordination, cross-body coordination, and helping their kids. So that one I wrote for fun, but my partner jokes that one will be bigger than the one I spent 6 years on.
That's right. Emma, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to hand these out for the clay courts to some of the adults that wear cross trainers on the clay courts.
Yeah.
Are
you going to make them color in the back?
What do I wear on my feet to play tennis?
Well, Emma, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to get the most important piece of information. People are going to want to buy this book. Where shall we send them? Of course, we'll put a link down below, but Amazon, where is this thing for sale right now?
Yep, it's on Amazon, and also if you just Google whatmakesagreatcoach.com, that's just a nice little landing page, and it'll take you straight to the Amazon links. So thank you for your support of the book. It really is a huge collaboration of amazing coaches. And I'm not gonna stop collating this data, by the way. So I'm adding your responses to now the next set of 500. But I appreciate you both and everything that you do for the industry. So thank you. Thank you.
It's gonna live forever.
Oh, communication is a very legitimate response to what makes a great coach. It's already in the book.
It's like
it already made the book.
Stealing Federer's, like
Emma, thank you for coming. Nate, it's been all right working with you again, I suppose.
So guys, if you have the opportunity to get out, check this out. Whether you're a coach or you're a student, for me, I've been doing this a long time. There was a lot of insights.
You're so old.
There were a lot of insights that made me think about how I can be a better coach and the way that I can communicate to students. So anyone, whether it's business and
I'll
any
tell you,
leadership position.
on the
check it
other
out.
side, yeah, man, I happen to be the CEO of Play Your Court. I think most people just think I'm on YouTube standing next to you. But this helped me from a business perspective also. So it truly is not just for sports coaches. If you want to be a better leader, if you want to run a better business, if you want to be a better coach, right here, check it out for sure.
Thank you.
Emma, thank you so much. It's been an absolute
Appreciate you
pleasure.
both. Thanks,
course.
everyone.
Thank you, Emma.
Cheers. Thank you.